Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I want to talk to you about some place that's very near and dear to my heart. Some place I've visited for multiple times, but I have not seen many videos on YouTube about. So today we're going to talk about Mongolia. Specifically in this video, we're going to explore Ulaanbaatar, which is the capital city of Mongolia. In today's video, we're going to talk about the differences that I've noticed since returning back here 4 years later and how much the city has changed in those 4 years. So join me as we explore Ulaanbaatar, Mongolia. Most times when we see videos of Mongolia, we're seeing a lot of videos about the countryside, horse riding, eagle training, and things that I think most people outside the country would appreciate. But what you don't see is the fact that Mongolia is a thriving city right here in Ulaanbaatar. It's changed very much from what it used to be 11 years ago when I first visited. Now that being said, the changes are positive and somewhat negative at the same time. They do burn coal for energy, so in the wintertime you'll have that heavy smog hanging around the city. So, that's the negative. One of the things that have changed that I noticed is that on the road you have so many more vehicles that are now hybrids. In the old days you had a lot of SUVs, diesel-based SUVs, and of course because Mongolia has a lot of countryside and Mongolians do like to get out in the countryside and visit and spend time, you definitely need an SUV to get around. You can get around in cars in some cases, but depending on where you go, you're probably going to be better served with a high-riding SUV. My wife, who many people mistake as being Chinese, is actually Mongolian. So I came here in 2011 to visit this beautiful country and fell in love with it. Now back then, the amount of foreigners that's coming to Mongolia is not as much as today. And even so, there are not that many foreigners that you find here in Mongolia. Things are changing. There are more people that are here and actually have decided to live here, but it's still not as much as you would expect in other foreign countries. Why is that, you ask? Well, here in Mongolia, the winters can typically get down to minus 40 degrees. And of course, the further north you go, it can get even colder. So yes, most people are not going to opt to move to some place that is going to be that cold to live. Life at that temperature is not that great, so you have that. I just wanted to make a quick reminder before we continue with the video. I want to thank everyone who's been subscribing, and for those of you who have yet to subscribe, please remember to do so. I'd also like to ask you to remember to give the video a thumbs up as you watch it. The more thumbs up the video gets, the more people YouTube push the video in front of. And of course, as a small grown YouTuber, I'd like to get my videos out to more people. So I need your help to give the video some more thumbs up so we can get them pushed around to the system and get more people to watch the channel and possibly subscribe. Thanks again for all those of you who have subscribed to the channel, and for all of you who've been watching the video. I really appreciate it. Okay, let's get back to our video. Since I've been here for a few days, I want to talk about some of the changes that I've experienced on this visit to Mongolia. And I'm going to keep it short and just talk about Ulaanbaatar because this is the first few days in the city. I'm going to be here for a couple months and I'm going to be heading out into the countryside, hopefully if the weather holds, but definitely for sure I'll be visiting Ulaanbaatar, which is the city where my wife is from. Now, let's get into what I've seen on my first week here in Mongolia. So let's start with the weather. When we arrived, the temperature was very warm. It was mid-80s and actually got up to 90 in a couple days, which is really different than what I've been used to the past few years. My previous visits have been between July, August, and even September. September tends to get on the colder side. July is that more, hey, we're in the middle of summer, looking good. And August is kind of also good, but winding down. Since we're here in June, I would expect it to be a little bit chillier, as my wife had mentioned, and my last trip in 2018, we actually came right at the beginning of July, right before the Naadam Festival, and during that period of time, it was chilly. So my expectation for June was that it was going to be chilly also. Imagine my surprise when the temperature ended up being in the mid-80s to 90 degrees. Of course, this is quite hot for most Mongolians, but this was quite comfortable for us coming over from Thailand, where it was somewhere between 90s and 100s. So for us it was, hey, kind of cool, and for them it was really hot. The other thing that I also noticed was after a few days of the nice warm temperature, we got some rain, and it was a lot of rain, caused some flooding in some areas. But yeah, that can be a bit of an annoyance because the water doesn't drain in a lot of places and it's just flooded around. Mongolia has been growing for the past years since I've been coming here. And back in 2018, I saw they were building up a lot of buildings, and here in 2022, that continues. There are quite a lot more apartment buildings here in the city, way more than I expected. And I guess people are moving from the traditional girl living or single family houses and are looking into apartments. The city is getting quite dense, more dense than it used to be when you consider how many apartment buildings are going up. You can have one that you live in and there's construction going on next to you, but I'll give them some credit. They've been doing the planning where you have your shopping malls and your stores right in the same area. So it's like a little bit of community. You know, normally we're kind of used to in the US, you build houses and so on, and someplace close by there's strip malls all over the place. Here, on the lower levels of the buildings, you may have your supermarkets, your gyms and so on right in the same building. Or you may have something like, you know, maybe a little bit center in the building area. So you can just walk over there and get your groceries and so on. And yeah, I think that kind of makes sense, especially as cold as it gets in the wintertime. You don't have to travel too far to get what your needs are. And your community has everything that's right there available and ready for you. You don't have to travel too far for that. Now, with all these new apartments and condos that are being built, I actually decided to take a look at some of them, and they're actually not bad. I mean, size-wise in the US, we tend to use up a lot more space, but here they do things a little bit different, but the space is still functional for what we need. And the space isn't gigantic, but again, it is functional and suits most people's needs. If you figure you're coming from a girl where it's basically, let's call it a studio type living, most Mongolian places, you know, you have the living room, dining, kitchen, it's kind of like in one room, and then there's a bedroom and there's a bathroom. So if you want more rooms, you can have more bedrooms and more bathrooms, but pretty much that's going to be the standard build. My understanding though is that some of the nicer places or more luxury places will come with more spaces. And I did notice also that they're building townhouses in certain areas and condos. There is single family houses I've heard about, but I haven't seen that community yet. I've seen it advertised on TV, but I've not had a chance to visit. If I do get a chance to visit at some point, I'll talk about that in a later video. Now, the other thing that I've noticed is that there are a lot more Priuses and hybrids here in Mongolia. I've seen the transition over the last few years as I've been coming here. There have been like the first generation Prius, then there's now the current generation Prius, or maybe like, you know, 4 or 5 years old, so that are actually here. There's also the Harrier. For those of you who are not familiar with the Harrier name, that's actually the Lexus RX. I've seen it here before, and of course, seeing the Harrier name, it's kind of strange to see that on a Lexus vehicle, but of course we know, you know, in Japan, they don't have Lexus, they just have Toyota. So what we get in the US is the RX version, a little bit more charged up. And of course, yes, some people do import the US Lexus RX vehicles over here as well. So you actually do have both. The majority of the vehicles are hybrids. Yes, hybrids. There are a lot of Toyota vehicles here. That seems to be the #1 choice of vehicles here. I've seen Porsches, I've seen Land Rover also. And yeah, there's a dealership, Porsche dealership, Land Rover, Jaguar dealership here. So yeah, you know, luxury cars are here as well. I've seen a couple of BMWs, but I think a lot of folks tend to kind of go towards those vehicles that are better with their off-roading capabilities if you're going to go to that level. And yeah, Mercedes-Benz, the AMG G-Wagon, there are quite a number of these in this area. I've realized that people who are, I guess, you know, wealthy tend to favor these vehicles more and more. And I would say for a city that this congested, it doesn't make sense to me, but you know, it's a status symbol, I guess, in a lot of places, because a lot of time you're just stuck in traffic. I equate it to Bangkok traffic. You can see people walking in the street that are moving faster than you, just sitting there stuck in traffic. Yeah, you have their, you know, air-conditioned comfort and nice vehicle or whatever it is you have, but you're just burning gas sitting there. Those that do have a hybrid system, yeah, I guess it's not too bad, because you know, once the engine shuts off, you're not polluting. And that's something that I had to get used to, is that the traffic noise is much less than it was in the old days. It's surprising the amount of hybrid vehicles that there are here, but it's a good thing. Every so often you'll hear a loud bike blowing by, or someone, you know, blowing out their AMG because, you know, the road's a little bit clear in a particular section, and that's it. There's a lot of traffic here. Oh, I did see a couple of Chargers out here, which is kind of odd, I would say. I believe there was a Mercedes-Benz EQ something SUV. I didn't get to see the actual brand, but it looked more like the GLC or GLE size vehicle. So if there's charging points here and that vehicle here, there's probably other vehicles that are here that are actually electric vehicles. I haven't seen any other than that one, but I did see a couple double-decker buses that were eco buses, and we actually had an opportunity to stop and chat with a driver of one of the eco buses to find out about it. It's something new here. They don't have a lot, but they have a few of them that have been used in the city. It's probably about 180 kilometers is the range in the vehicle. But if you drive an electric vehicle, you know, driving around the city, you can regenerate your battery pretty easily. If it's not on the highway, your range is going to go much longer driving around the city. So I commend them for doing that. That's a good thing. And I think overall, as vehicle prices come down, maybe more people, you know, will get EVs. The choices aren't big right now for EVs. And of course, if there's no manufacturer like Toyota that's having any old EVs, they're not going to reach here very soon. But I figure in the next 2 years, there will be some, because of course, as we know, Toyota is not producing electric vehicles, so there'll be some coming here as well. So knowing that there are now electric vehicles, what else is coming to Mongolia? I think as time goes on, Mongolia is going to have to make some changes to how they power their system, because they're utilizing coal for the electricity. And that's, you know, has been around for some time. I don't know if anything new is going to come in the future, but we'll see how that works out. My experience here so far has been very eye-opening after 4 years, and the things that have been changed. I keep saying every time I come back to Mongolia, there's so many more changes and differences, and as you can see from some of the videos, this city has grown quite a lot. And yeah, I don't know how much bigger it's going to grow here. I did realize that there is some new housing close to the new airport. They did make a bigger airport from what I understand it is, and it's a little bit further to the south, and there were some homes along the way there. So they're expanding outside of Ulaanbaatar city itself. And you know, I've always said I think they need to make a new city someplace else and start fresh, you know, with the drainage system and so on. And who knows, maybe they'll get around to that. But yeah, it seems to be a lot more expats here as well. I did notice a few people here, you know, driving some Mazdas and so on. So there's a mix. People are finding it, people seem to be finding this a place as a nice place to live. I like it myself. You know, it's just the cold that I can't get used to. But who knows? You know, we'll get warm enough clothes and so on. Maybe I'll chance it one day. Well, we'll see what happens. You know, I did check out some apartments and look at some prices. You know, my wife was thinking maybe we should buy something out here. You know, I think I'll do a video about that. You know, we did look at some stuff with that to take some pictures and so on. So maybe I'll talk about that in a future video and let you guys know if we did decide to get something here or did not. So stay tuned. There'll be more videos from Mongolia because we're going to be here for a couple months, and I'll try to get as much as I can put together and share with you guys. Thanks again. I hope you subscribe to the channel. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. See you in the next one.